Welcome to Dreamy Fairy English Land. Today, I am going to tell you a fantastic story. Captain America. This is a story about a weak young man who becomes a hero through his courage and kind heart. Relax and get cozy. You can choose a comfortable position. Let's dive into the fantastic story. The magic begins now. A long time ago, in a time of war, the world was not peaceful. In New York City, the sky was gray and people were worried. Newspapers were full of bad news, and streets had signs saying, "Join the army." In this time, there was a young man named Steve Rogers. He was small, weak, and often sick. People did not notice him in the crowd, but he had a strong heart. Steve always said, "I just want to help people." One day, he went to join the army. He stood in a long line, waiting for his turn. A doctor looked at him and said, "You are too weak." Steve asked, "Can I try something else?" The doctor said, "No, sorry." Steve was quiet. He said, "Okay." But the next day, he came again. The doctor saw him and said, "You are back again." Steve answered, "Yes, I want to help." Someone laughed and said, "Why do you keep coming?" Steve said, "Because I want a chance." Finally, Steve was accepted into training camp. The camp was very hard. Soldiers ran fast and shouted orders. Steve was always last in every exercise. A soldier said, "Hey, small guy, are you lost?" Another said, "This is not a place for you." Steve was tired, but he said, "I will try again." Every day, he trained harder and never gave up. He fell down, but always stood up again. He kept trying, even when others laughed at him. One day, the trainer shouted, "Bomb!" A small object was thrown on the ground. "Go! Go!" soldiers shouted and ran away. But Steve Rogers did not run. He ran forward and covered it with his body. He shouted, "Everyone, go!" Seconds passed. Nothing happened. It was a test. Everyone was shocked and silent. A scientist watched Steve carefully from far away. He walked to him and asked, "Why did you do that?" Steve said, "Because people must be safe." He looked at Steve and said, "We have been watching you for a long time. We see many good things in you. You like to help others, and you never give up. Would you like to join this experiment?" The scientist said, "I am making a special medicine. It can make a person very strong." Steve asked, "Strong like a hero?" The scientist said, "Yes, but it has a secret. It does not just change your body. It shows your heart. If you are kind, you become kinder. If you are bad, you become worse. Steve said, "I understand." The scientist asked, "Are you ready?" Steve answered, "Yes. I want to help people." Finally, the day of the experiment arrived. The lab was quiet. Big machines were ready. Bright lights filled the room. Steve lay inside the machine. The special medicine went into his body. Steve said, "It hurts." The light became stronger and stronger. His body shook in pain. Steve shouted, "I can do it. Do not stop." The scientist asked, "Can you continue?" Steve said, "Yes. I will not give up. If this helps people, I will take it." The light became very bright. Then, everything became silent. The door opened. Steve Rogers stood up. He was no longer small. He was strong. That day, he became Captain America. He helped people and protected soldiers. He always stood in front, never behind. One day, a plane carried a dangerous weapon. It could destroy many cities. There was no safe landing. Captain America entered the plane. A voice said, "Come back. You can still live." He looked at the cold ocean below. He said, "No, I must stop it." Another voice said, "You will die." He answered, "But others will live." He took a deep breath. To protect everyone, he chose to fly the plane, filled with dangerous weapons, into the cold, deep sea. He went down with it to save the world. The world became silent. Years passed. People later found him in the ice. They broke the ice carefully. Captain America opened his eyes. He asked, "What year is it?" Someone answered, "It is 2011. He looked around in surprise. Everything was different. The world had changed. But inside, he was still the same. Still Steve Rogers. Still kind. Still brave. The boy who only wanted to help people. He did not think too much. He started to help right away. He kept fighting bad people, even until today. Now the story is ending. We may not be superheroes, but every day we make choices. To help or not help. To be kind or not kind. True strength is not the body. It is the heart. We can learn to stand up even when people laugh at us. We can learn to do the right thing even when it is not easy. We can learn to believe in ourselves. And we can learn that a kind heart is very powerful. That's the story for today. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. I wish you have a restful sleeps and sweet dreams. Good night.